Boxing professionals have been out to share their opinions on the split between Gervonta Davis and Calvin Ford. While many were surprised by the news, others felt it wasn't a strange phenomenon in the sport of boxing, hence, it should be embraced. But in this case, it all boils down to the sour relationship between Floyd Mayweather and Gervonta Davis. Their feud has rendered Leonard Ellerbe jobless, making him nothing more than a personal assistant to Gervonta Davis. Or better still, a personal promoter.
We went shopping, hanging out, having fun. I got a phone call. No, I called and asked the question. He said, oh, hell no, that didn't happen. So I let it go because I'm thinking somebody playing the game until we got back here. And then when we got back here, they said they couldn't let it in the gym.
And now, their feud has done some damage to the relationship between Gervonta Davis and his coaches, Calvin Ford and Kenny Ellis. Unfortunately, it's persisted since the days after Gervonta Davis's fight with Frank Martin, where Calvin Ford honored an interview, but didn't slam Floyd as hard as Tank Davis would have wanted. He expected Coach Ford to clearly be on his side and unblushingly air his sentiments to the public. Sadly, like Leonard Ellerbe, Calvin Ford was more balanced in his responses.
Tank pop up and said, man, y'all could at least told me. Say, yo, you don't need to be worried about shit like that, you know what I'm saying? Just call Floyd. And that was his way of just making Tank talk to him. That was a mentor lessons right there to get him to talk to him.
This was the beginning of the end for them. And even when Calvin Ford recently corrected the impression, it was a bit too late, as Gervonta Davis was already unimpressed by whatever Ford was doing. Whether this was enough reason to sack him, only Gervonta Davis can answer. But it's also been rumored that there were several underlying issues between the pair that's been unaddressed for a while. Claressa Shields, the female heavyweight champion and an enemy of Gervonta Davis, wasn't so impressed about the situation.
Get it. I get it. But they only say you can only have one master.
She instead spoke about her life for Calvin Ford and how much he's done for Gervonta Davis. To her, Tank Davis isn't making the best decision, and she feels this is going to impact his performance against Lamont Roach negatively. Shout out to his coach Calvin. I love his coach Calvin. He's a great trainer, and he's taught Tank and built him up well. It's sad if anything sad has happened, but they know best. She then moved on to her feelings about the fight. Everybody can be beaten, but I think that Tank knows that he's against a good fighter and he'll train hard. I know we had our dispute back and forth or whatever, but at the end of the day, if we talk about just boxing, he's a good fighter and I look forward to watching that fight.
And I look forward to watching that fight.
Is this a pay-per-view fight though? Would you buy it? Are you gonna buy it?
I'll bought any fight that Tank has had pay-per-view. I think that Lamont.
When asked if it was worth a pay-per-view fight and if she was going to buy the ticket, she answered, I've always bought any fight that Tank has had on pay-per-view, and I think that Lamont Roach is worth watching. I think that this fight is going to be very technical, very skillful, and as always, we're going to have the power of Tank on display. Let the best man win this. Coach Kenny Ellis, who wasn't really involved in the mix earlier, had also spoken on what happened. However, news has been out that both Calvin Ford and Kenny Ellis will be leaving Gervonta Davis's camp. Before that was confirmed, Kenny Ellis had described the situation saying,
Lamont not being as known of a fighter as his past opponent.
Yeah, but it's not Tank's fault. The guys with the so-called names, they turn Tank down.
It's not Tank's fault. It's not Calvin's fault too. There has been a misunderstanding, and we've just not really been on the same page, and he feels he doesn't want to take that energy into a career-defining fight against Lamont Roach. There could be some settlement later though. Coach Kenny Ellis feels positive. As Tank and Coach Calvin Ford share more than a coach and fighter relationship, it's more like a father and son thing, and they both have a strong emotional connection that transcends whatever any of them stands to gain in relation to boxing alone. Calvin Ford and Gervonta Tank. Davis's journey to the top was marked by deep losses, especially the tragic death of Quadir Gurley, a close family friend and a key influence in Davis's life. Success born from adversity is like a flame sparked in the darkest night, small at first, but fueled by struggle. It grows into a force that lights the way for others.
He been with me since I was 7. I used to sleep in Coach Calvin's house. I used to sleep at his job when he was working at a seafood restaurant.
Calvin Ford, Gervonta Davis's coach, in many ways embodies that perfectly. The Baltimore puncher seemed destined to join the countless others in jail or death in his rough childhood in one of the most impoverished neighborhoods in Baltimore. However, boxing saved him. A 7-year-old Davis found ambition in the confines of a gym, which saw him rise to the epitome of the sport of the sweet science. Still, he didn't come out unscathed. While he made it out, his friends and family became tragic statistics. One of those people was Quadir Gurley. He was the friend who introduced Davis to boxing and the late son of Davis's longtime trainer and father figure, Calvin Ford.
In Baltimore.
When I had to train Tank, when I didn't want him to get in trouble and I wanted to make sure we was together, I used to take him to work with me. And he'd chill. Everybody know him. Everybody know him at work.
For Gervonta Tank Davis, Quadir Gurley was more than just a name in the boxing community. He was a beacon of hope and significant influence, without whom the sport might never have gotten its current face of boxing. Gurley, a father of 6, was a promising boxer and a mentor to Davis, who introduced him to boxing at a very young age. Gurley tragically passed away in 2013 at the very young age of 24 after being shot in the North Trenton neighborhood in Trenton, New Jersey, leaving a profound impact on those who knew him. Like Davis, Gurley grew up in the tough neighborhood of Baltimore, faced with the harsh realities of his environment, and it would be the same thing that eventually took his life. Talented and determined, Gurley showed promise in the ring, but his loss shook the community, especially Ford and Davis, who going forth dedicated many fights in Gurley's memory.
Remember, Calvin used to fuss at the guys that was coming up with me, and they was in the streets a lot. He was telling them, like, you can't have 1 feet.
Regardless, Ford's late son might not be around anymore, but his legacy continues to inspire many, serving as a tough reminder of the reality of life in Baltimore. Davis, reflecting on Gurley and many others who passed away too soon, said, Angela Ward, Ronald Gibbs, and Coach Calvin's son, they're guys who died and were such a major influence on my life. He added, actually, many young men I used to look up to are either dead or in jail. Whenever I fight, I feel like their legacy is going into the ring with me. It's a big responsibility, but I'll take that. Quadir Gurley played a pivotal role in Gervonta Davis's early boxing journey, but he was not Davis's trainer in the conventional sense.
And then 1 feet out, you gotta be like all the way in it, like focus on the goal, you know, and them guys, they went left. And
a close friend, Gurley, introduced Davis to boxing when he was just 7 years old. His encouragement helped steer Davis toward a successful career, which has seen Davis rise through the ranks like no other. When I look back, I think what happened to them kept him straight, Ford said to Baltimore Sun. Although Gurley didn't serve as a traditional trainer, his early support and mentorship were instrumental in shaping Davis's path from a troubled youth to a boxing champion. Gurley's legacy continues to inspire Davis, illustrating the power of friendship and guidance in achieving greatness. The 24-year-old's death came just after the shooter, Isaiah Green, 24, of Trenton, had been released on bail for a separate violent crime. Green had a history of criminal activity, and it would continue after his release as he gunned down Gurley in an incident that shocked the local community.
Unfortunately, they got killed.
You weigh the odds out like that. Do you want him to go to jail or you want him to live?
In the aftermath of this horrific incident, the shooter was arrested on November 18, 2013 by the members of the Mercer County Homicide Task Force. Green was charged with murder and multiple weapons offenses, with his bail set at $500,000. This was followed by a lengthy legal battle, which saw Green face 3 separate trials. Green was convicted of unlawful possession of a handgun during his 3rd trial, but the jury deadlocked on the other charges. It included first-degree purposeful murder. Ultimately, Green entered a plea deal on February 27, 2015, pleading guilty to second-degree reckless manslaughter. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison, concurrent with other sentences related to his weapons conviction and an entirely separate aggravated assault case. Interestingly, Green's criminal history further complicated the case, as he had been involved in violent crimes in the past as well.
That's the whole idea, to come to the boxing gym.
If I ain't had the people I had around me, like the people that started with me and things like that, I probably would have been off the scene for a long time.
Just 5 days after killing Gurley, he was charged with drug distribution offenses. However, as part of his plea deal, the drug charges were dropped, and Judge Massey, who presided over the case, ruled that Green's sentence was fair and just. The pride of Baltimore and the man behind Gervonta Davis, Calvin Ford, was born on August 30th, 1967 in Baltimore, Maryland. From the get-go, life was hard as he faced significant challenges during his youth, which ultimately led to a 10-year federal prison sentence for drug-related crimes. Despite all the turbulence in his life and background, his passion for boxing remained unwavering and played a crucial role in making him the world-renowned trainer he is today. Come 1998, Ford was released from prison, and right away, he dedicated himself to mentoring young individuals, determined to guide them away from the pitfalls that forced him into a prison sentence.
So, big knockout for Tank, 30-0, 28 knockouts. What did you guys think of Tank's knockout tonight?
I think it was amazing, bro.
Ford today is known mostly for his contributions to Gervonta Davis's career, but he has done a lot more for his community. He co-founded the Upton Boxing Center with Kenny Ellis, creating a nurturing environment for aspiring boxers and helping them prepare for competitions like the USA Boxing and the Junior Olympics. Without him, many of those young individuals could have become another addition to the statistics. Instead, because of Ford's dedication to coaching, those individuals have become successful athletes, revitalizing the sport in Baltimore. All this was possible because of Ford's coaching philosophy, hard work, determination, and relentless pursuit of success.
Describe the knockout to me, because it looked so crazy on the video.
I do. I gotta see it. I gotta.
You didn't see it?
I've seen it, but you know, it's a lot going on.
Hold on, Lauren, you happen to have the...
Interestingly, Ford's life story has also inspired the character Dennis Cuddy Wise in the acclaimed series The Wire, which illustrates his impact on and off the ring. However, his coaching philosophy is centered around fostering discipline and resilience, offering hope and structure to those in need. His commitment to developing young talent and changing lives remains at the forefront of his coaching career, demonstrating the profound impact one individual can have on their community. When surrounded by adversity, being the beacon of hope is not everyone's cup of tea. However, for Calvin Ford, it's just another day at the office. This is despite the tragic loss of his son in 2013. The boxing community, including Gervonta Davis, continues to draw inspiration from the champion that could have been. For Davis, Gurley was the reason Davis stepped into the ring in the first place.
The knockout, he wants to see it really quick.
I don't have to.
Oh.
We'll get it. Yeah, for sure.
Ren, good seeing you. Ren, is there a doubt who's the pound for pound?
Gurley was a father of 6, a promising boxer and a mentor who first brought Davis to the gym, sparking a lifelong commitment to the sport. You probably doubted the likelihood of the match after some news over the weekend? Well, you should probably see Tank Davis's response to those claims. World Boxing Association lightweight champion Gervonta Davis just cleared the air about the confusion around his next title defense against World Boxing Association super featherweight champion Lamont Roach. The duo was slated to lock horns on December 14th at the Toyota Center, Houston, but a recent report from Boxing Scene suggested that it could be pushed. To when?
Pound King.
I ain't no doubt. You know what it is. I've been telling you that. I want to take everybody.
What do you tell Tank if he's watching?
Hey, great job, champ.
According to the Boxing Media House, people associated with Davis had confirmed to them that the bout was being reworked and could be turned into a doubleheader. They reported that Davis-Roach was now being eyed for a January 25th date in the co-main event of the potential David Benavidez versus David Morrell fight, who are vying for a bout on the same date in Las Vegas. Benavidez and Davis appeared on the Amazon Prime pay-per-view card together back in June, earlier this year when Davis defended his title against Frank Martin via an 8th-round knockout, and Benavidez emerged victorious over Alexander Gvozdyk. Regardless, after TalkSport editor Michael Benson shared this news on X today, Davis had just one word for it. Cap, Vasyl Lomachenko and Shakur Stevenson, Brandon Figueroa, and Stephen Fulton. This means that the reports of the move may not be completely true.
Don't stop.
All right, there you have it. Lights out. If you don't pay the light bill,
Life gets wild.
You know, that was a beautiful knockout. That was a beautiful knockout. That was beautiful.
Tank originally sought a unification bout against IBF lightweight champion Vasyl Lomachenko or WBC lightweight champion Shakur Stevenson. However, Lomachenko pulled out and is now contemplating retirement, while the talks for the Stevenson fight had come to a halt. Nonetheless, the reason behind the change in Davis's fight was reportedly a series of situations that made it wobbly. Despite Davis's claims against the doubleheader, there were some big names tossed around for the main card. Boxing Scene reported that because Davis was such a massive favorite in this bout, Premier Boxing Champions was trying to create more interest in the card by adding a fight between newly elevated WBC featherweight champion Brandon Figueroa and Stephen Fulton, with Fulton winning their first fight in 2021. Even Jermall Charlo's name was mentioned to be potentially added to the card, though no names were mentioned for his opponent.
Man, if a boxer jump at you, you're not gonna flinch. Like, well, especially a guy with 29-0 with 27 KOs, like, who not gonna flinch? Anybody gonna flinch.
The initial December 14th date seemed too close to the Alexander Usyk versus Tyson Fury rematch to draw significant PPV interest, making the new January 25th date seem more practical. However, with Davis's latest tweet, it now appears they may end up competing with the heavyweight bout for viewership. That said, while Gervonta Davis has suggested his fight date remains set, the full story behind the scenes is still unclear. Or it could be business as usual, with Davis facing Lamont Roach without a hitch on December 14th.
Was looking for a coach. Would you take on Errol Spence?
Errol Spence, who also left his career-long trainer, Derek James, was a bit surprised, but wasn't disappointed in Gervonta Davis's decision. He has been through that path before, and he understood what it meant to feel disconnected from one's trainer. His experience with Derek James largely formed his response about the Calvin Ford and Gervonta Davis situation. Besides, Errol Spence isn't a stranger to the house, considering he also fought under the Premier Boxing Champion banner like Gervonta Davis when the agency was established.
First, I would go to Derek James and get permission from Derek James. That's the first thing I would do. And Derek give me his blessings. Give him saying I would jump in.
On this, he replied the interviewer, "It's no big deal if he doesn't feel connected to him anymore. It's his choice to leave or stay. I know they had some controversies, but it's perfectly fine if he chooses to leave. No one should make a fuss about that." Terence Crawford made history, becoming the first unified welterweight champion in the history of the 4 major belt era with a 9th-round TKO win over Errol Spence Jr. last year. Crawford added Spence's World Boxing Association, World Boxing Council, and International Boxing Federation titles to his own World Boxing Organization crown. The knockout victory marked Crawford's 11th consecutive finish, with 9 of them now coming in the 6th round or later. This, however, was the most impressive of them all, as Crawford put on a boxing masterclass to practically dominate the fight from the moment he dropped Spence in the 2nd round. That was an unfamiliar position for Spence, who had not previously been dropped once in his accomplished career. By the end of the fight, he had gone down 3 separate times. A similar story as Devin the Dream Haney, who was dropped thrice en route to the very first loss of his career. Crawford finished the fight landing a stunning 60% of his power shots and 42% of his jabs. His 87 landed jabs were the most by a Spence opponent. "I only dreamed of being a world champion. I'm an overachiever. Nobody believed in me when I was coming up, but I made everyone a believer," Crawford said post-fight. "I want to thank Spence and his team like I told him. Without him, none of this would be possible for me here tonight," he added. "It means everything because of who I took the belts from. They tried to blackball me. They kept me out. They talked bad about me. They said I wasn't good enough. I couldn't beat these top welterweights. I just kept my head to the sky. I just kept praying to God that I could get the opportunity to show the world how great Terence Crawford is, and tonight I believe I showed how great I am." Now Crawford has written his name in the history books, and while he will now take a well-deserved rest, attention quickly turned post-fight as to whether Spence will ask for a rematch. Crawford was on board with that idea too, telling reporters fighting at 147 pounds was kind of hard for him too, and that moving up wouldn't be out of reach. The fight opened with Spence dictating terms and pressuring early, while Crawford cautiously and cleverly sat back, picking his moments to counter like he did late in the 1st round. While there were no major moments for either fighter, Spence overreached on one occasion, and Crawford was quick to counter with a strong left hand.
He hasn't been hit in that slump after this fight because for the 3rd time in the fight!
It was just a glimpse of the kind of chess match that was expected in the early rounds, with Crawford known as more of an intentional slow starter and Spence likelier to try to set the pace. Spence was able to do just that some more in the second, with a combination of his movement, consistent jab, and relentless pressure causing problems.
At the end of the seventh!
Jab from Crawford saw Spence suddenly drop for the first time in his career in the final moments of the second round. And that's all for now. For the very best updates on news, moments, events, and actions in the world of boxing, stay connected with us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications to get notified when we drop quality contents like this. Until next time, peace out.